All right, welcome back to Local News Live. We are talking about, guess what? Winter. It's something that Alicia absolutely loves.
I was hoping you were going to say summer, actually.
Nope, wrong season. And Alicia was just telling me about how much she loves winter. Don't you, Alicia?
I mean, if I can stay inside and I don't have to worry about driving on the streets,
Yes.
I think I'm okay. But it's when those streets get a little tricky. That's what I don't care for.
Yeah, I don't like when the days get shorter. So not only is it darker sooner, but it's colder. And we've had snow flurries here at Local News Live headquarters all morning, all day long, same as yesterday. So, it's not the most inviting time of year.
Yeah, I just love the sun.
Me too.
And warm temps.
I love blue skies, but as you can tell, based on our studio and also the background, hopefully you're getting some chilly vibes because we are going to be talking about everything that you need to know as winter is approaching. Some people have lived through many winters, and Alicia, some people, they may be out living on their own for the very first time this winter. So it's some things that maybe they just need a refresher course on.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of places in our country are lucky that they don't really get the moisture as it pertains to ice and snow in the winter. But for a lot of us, it's something that we deal with. And thankfully, our stations are there for us, covering all the varieties of winter and how to continue through it.
Yes. And what we do here at Local News Live is we take little bits of stories from our great TV stations across the nation and we share them with you here on Local News Live. And that is what we're going to be doing over the course of the next hour. Alicia will be here helping me toss to those different stories. So let's start off first with our station out of Greenville, North Carolina, as they're talking about seniors and shelters bracing for the colder temperatures and the higher bills. Let's get you to that story.
A necessity. As our nights keep getting cooler, I talked to some people in Greenville who have had to find ways to work around the higher prices.
And sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming.
Keeping up with the bills at any time can certainly be described that way. And for Shirley Rogers, like many others, there's a level of dread when she thinks about it at all.
I do have a mortgage I have to pay, plus the light bill and phone bill.
But on top of that, just like summer makes the AC bills higher, winter will do the same for heating costs. It's no secret that wearing some thick socks and curling up by the fire is how some plan to keep their bills lower.
I'm going to do okay if I had to wrap up in a blanket.
But it's not ideal for someone like Mary Moore, who has asthma and COPD. Changes in the air have a big impact. Even so, she's had to make sacrifices.
We had to turn it almost off so that we could be able to pay the light bill.
A catch-22 for many.
For many of our seniors that already have blood-related thinning issues, they get cold really quick, so they tend to put the heat up a little bit more, but then they can't afford the heat.
While inflation seems to be easing, prices over the past year have made costs for everyone go up, which hits shelters like Crossroads Community Center.
Utility bills went up, supply costs went up, everything went up this year.
So what do you do to manage that?
We try to get more donations.
Something he says always manages to keep the doors open so they can continue serving people in need. Community Crossroads Center has seen a 10% increase in costs over the past year. That comes out to about $60,000 more. They are crucial in these colder months as they're open anytime the temperature is 32 degrees or below.
All right, just like you said, Alicia, our local TV stations taking care of us, reporting these important stories, and also giving us incredibly helpful tips.
Absolutely. So that story definitely dealt with heat and how it can be kind of pricey. A lot of people definitely need it. Our next story comes to us from our station WSMV out of Nashville, and they're talking all about resources that are available in case you need a little extra help this winter to make sure that you stay warm.
Thomas, thank you. And that cold's going to have lots of Middle Tennesseans cranking up the heat this weekend. Experts predict it'll cost you hundreds of dollars more to keep your home warm this winter. But there is help out there if you fall behind on those bills. WSMV's Michael Warwick explains for us.
With temperatures expected to plummet overnight, costs are expected to rise this winter, experts say, to heat your home.
I'd rather for you to have some heat and it's getting ready to get cold than been sitting up there, especially with children and elderly with no heat, because I've been there and done that.
Wanda Garrett runs a ministry helping those in need.
To know that I've been there.
She's been in a pinch before and encourages anyone this winter who may fall behind on their bills to ask for help.
But you get in a situation sometimes that you really don't know how you're going to come up out of it. So there's open doors that you can find yourself walking through without being ashamed.
And there are places like here at the Metro Action Commission that are standing ready to help the people who will struggle paying their heating bills this winter. Low-income families who are eligible can apply through Metro Action for assistance making payments. Another program called Home Uplift offers free home energy improvements that can save you hundreds of dollars a year.
So it's best, I would say, go out and get help wherever you can get it from.
The National Energy Assistance Directors Association predicts the average cost to heat a home will rise nearly 18% from last winter. And as temperatures drop, Wanda hopes some of the less fortunate know help is out there, something she tries to provide personally through her ministry.
Sometimes it brings tears to my eyes and I can give them a hug, let them know that somebody that really cares.
Michael Warwick, WSMV4.
Great tips right there, courtesy of our station WSMV, on how you can get help, especially if you live in that area, on just being sure that you have heat this winter to keep yourself warm. All right, sending it over to Victoria now for our next story.
Thank you so much for that, Alicia. This next story is an incredibly helpful guide, not just for our folks over in Lansing, Michigan, WILX, but also helpful tips for anybody that lives in an area that may experience winter weather. Let's get you over to their special, they put together a special 30-minute special called First Alert Winter Survival Guide. Let's get you to it.
Winter wonderland, but our weather can also be dangerous. Tonight, the News 10 First Alert Weather Team helps you and your family prepare for winter's worst. Everything you need to know before the snow comes. This is your First Alert Winter Survival Guide, presented by M&M Moving.
And welcome to the First Alert Winter Survival Guide. Like it or not, winter's almost here. From snow to ice to bitter cold, we see it all in mid-Michigan.
Yeah, and over the next half hour, we will be talking everything winter, from road conditions to school closings.
We will also look at how climate change could be changing our winters in Michigan. And winter and memorable storms seem to go together in Michigan. For Lansing and the surrounding suburbs, the late December ice storm of 2013 is one that we will never forget. More than 38,000 customers were left in the dark, with some power outages lasting as long as 11 days after the storm. For many, the Christmas holiday was spent with friends and family or at a hotel due to the outage. The historic ice storm brought about many changes in how the Lansing Board of Water and Light keeps its power lines clear of trees and how it responds to a crisis like an ice storm.
It is the goal of all electric utilities to avoid power outages, but our harsh winter conditions present a challenge for the utilities. A power outage is never good, no matter the season, but they are especially bad in the winter. Did you know that a half an inch of ice on the power line from the pole to your house could weigh up to 500 pounds? That's the weight of 2 home refrigerators. The added weight of the ice on power lines, teamed up with gusty winds and falling tree limbs, cause many outages. The preparation to prevent power outages is a year-round task at Consumers Energy.
We prepare all year long for weather events, particularly for these winter storms that impact Michigan. So this year, we've inspected over 13,000 miles of the electric grid. We have cleared over 5,500 miles of trees away from the electric grid. And we're on track this year to clear over 7,000 miles.
In case you were wondering, yes, the utility companies are monitoring the weather forecast just like you in the winter. A storm forecast puts them into action.
It is all hands on deck inside Consumers Energy. We are ramping up our office staffing. We're moving equipment around the state so we can really narrow in on where is that icing event going to occur.
If you find yourself without power, remember, do not run a generator in your garage. It needs to be outside, and stay away from down power lines.
First Alert Weather is part of our commitment to you at home to give you the first alert to changing or dangerous weather days before it happens. Part of that includes First Alert Weather Days. Meteorologist Colton Sikoraki shows us what goes into forecasting these days.
Every day, the First Alert Weather Team is committed to creating an accurate weather forecast. We're looking for any weather that might impact your day. That can be weather that is happening tomorrow or even a week from now. It's part of a three-part process of First Alert forecasting. It starts 5 to 7 days out. This is when we are tracking the longer-term weather patterns, looking for any sign that impactful weather might be heading our way. Then 3 to 5 days out, we identify storms that could cause some disruptions. We watch model data closely and work to pinpoint the exact track and time of future storms. And once we are within 3 days of the storm, we will alert you to the specific impacts. This is when First Alert Weather Days are declared, and we bring you live team coverage of the forecast. You'll notice changes in our newscast that show more urgency and more information to help you prepare for what's coming. And finally, on a declared First Alert Weather Day, you'll see the red banner on your screens. Weather will be the top story in all of our newscasts, and our website and streaming channel will include in-depth coverage of our forecast.
It's all part of our commitment to you to always give you that first alert, and the best way to stay connected when you're on the go is to download the First Alert Weather app.
Nobody would argue the fact that Michigan receives a lot of snow in the winter, but our dedicated crews do a great job trying to keep our roads and highways drivable in harsh conditions. Who plows your road? Well, it depends. Plowing is a shared task between cities, counties, and the Michigan Department of Transportation. My recent visit was to the MDOT Williamston Garage, where preparations for winter weather were underway. 16 plows were ready to go, and the storage area was ready for its salt delivery. Once the snow starts flying, it is a daily grind to keep highways safe for travelers. When a big storm is expected, it's all hands on deck.
At some point, we're going to have all 100% of the workforce here ready to work, and they're going to do two 12-hour shifts to cover all the ground that's necessary.
The process is more involved than just driving around plowing and spreading salt. It requires constant monitoring of current weather and road conditions.
The salt becomes less effective when it goes below 10 degrees, because what happens is you clear away the ice, but then it refreezes. Right. We have some great scientists working for us, some great engineers, and we do cutting-edge technology to make sure that you have a safe drive to home, work, school, wherever you're going.
The big thing you can do to help the plow drivers is give them plenty of room to do their job. In the large trucks, seeing smaller vehicles on the roads is sometimes a challenge. You can also monitor the location of the MDOT plows on the mDrive map.
And driving in the winter in Michigan can be tough sometimes, and there are many useful tips to keep in mind when you are on the road. First Alert meteorologist Andy Provenzano tells us what you need to know.
Nowadays, there's many types of cars on the highway. You have front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, even electric cars. But starting at the top, being the safest, is the same as it's always been. Michigan State Police will tell us the best thing you can do is slow down. Now, of course, you want to check your tires, make sure you have adequate tread and that the manufacturing spec of the tire pressure is there. Remove the ice off the windows. We all need to do that. A lot of times you see cars with maybe not the back window cleaned off. And if you do begin to skid, you want to avoid accelerating and braking too fast and kind of slide with that skid. But it's more than that as well. In fact, most people will say if you really want to avoid driving in the winter weather and accidents is just stay off the roads if possible to avoid the traveling and let the road crews do their thing. And accidents are much more likely to happen because your stopping distance and reaction time becomes so incredibly small during the winter season it's hard to react. Got to get your car prepared too, meteorologist Justin Bradford. He's got details on that.
We'll start your vehicle checklist with the exterior of the vehicle, beginning with the tires. Now you want to make sure that these have got some pretty solid tread because that will allow for a shorter stopping distance, especially on a snowy or icy surface. You also want to make sure that you know what pressure you need to have your tires inflated to, as that will allow you to have a shorter stopping distance. And you can typically find that, if not in your driver's manual, on the inside of your driver's side door. You can keep snow and ice off of your vehicle with a brush or scraper, and it's also good to have some kitty litter. Some non-clumping kitty litter like I have here will help give you some extra traction if you do happen to get stuck. You can also keep your doors from freezing shut with a simple, safe silicone spray. All you have to do is make sure your door frame is dry, and then using a microfiber cloth or a dry paper towel, spray the edge, and then just wipe that in for a little bit and let it dry for a few minutes, and that's it. It is smart to keep a half tank of gas or more to prevent condensation inside the gas lines or tank, which can freeze during extreme temperatures. Ralph Shaheen says there's a few other things you can do as well.
Check your coolant. You know, we recommend coolant should be flushed every 150,000 miles. So if you have a fairly new car, don't really worry about it. It should be up to snuff. But if you have an older car, make sure your coolant is up to snuff as well. Windshield washer fluid, that's good for helping de-ice your windshield. A blanket, in case you do get stranded, would be a big thing. Other than that, the battery, I think, is the biggest.
When you finally do start your vehicle, your defroster will get rid of any snow or ice that has gathered on the windshield. And it's also a good idea while you're here to try out your headlights. Make sure none of them are out. Having a family member or friend stand outside the vehicle will help you do this easily. It's always good inside the car to have jumper cables in case you or someone you know needs a start, and having a pair of gloves and a blanket to keep you warm, in addition to some food or water in case you are in an emergency. And finally, a phone charger, flashlight, and small first aid kit will keep you prepared in the event of any issues.
If you haven't changed your battery in 4 years, change your battery. Don't let it leave you hanging.
And remember, most auto parts stores will test your battery for free so you don't get left out in the cold.
And coming up after the break, we take a look at why our winters are becoming warmer and wetter. And we have tips. Do what the other guy.
Got UV.
I like. Welcome back. Did you know a foot of fluffy snow can weigh more than 6,000 pounds on your roof? That's like having the weight of 2 cars parked on top of your home. And normal snow can weigh more than 18,000 pounds, while a wet snow can add nearly double that amount of weight to your roof. That's why it's important to not let too much snow accumulate.
Have you ever noticed that if you go outside early after a big snowfall that it seems unusually quiet? Well, it's not your imagination. A blanket of several inches of fresh snow absorbed many of the sound waves, making it seem quieter. Of course, we can't show you sound waves, but we'll use a yellow ball to kind of get the idea of the sound waves. And we drop the yellow ball onto a hard surface like the ground or a roadway. And basically, the sound waves just kind of bounce off the hard surface and they continue to move along. Now, we add some snow, and it's more than just a dusting of snow. You really need several inches of snow that is of a fluffy consistency, not the wet, slushy variety of snow. Now, it's believed that 50 to 90% of the sound waves that come in contact with the fresh, powdery surface are absorbed by the snow. As snow melts and it refreezes, it loses its silencing ability due to compaction and the change in snowflake shapes.
And there is no doubt that our winters in Michigan are changing. Winters are becoming warmer and wetter due to climate change. I took a look at how fast our winters are changing and how it is impacting our community.
I'm 5th generation, so my whole life.
Mike Beck has helped run Uncle John's for nearly 25 years. He's seen the ups and downs when it comes to the weather and how it impacts his crops. But one year stands out like no other, and that was 2012.
That nice warm March led to too much growth, and that put flowers out in April, and April nights are still freezing, and that killed the entire crop.
Beck is talking about an extraordinarily early and extreme warm-up that led to one of the worst apple crops in Michigan ever. In March of that year, there were 9 straight days with highs in the 70s and 80s, temperatures that were nearly 25 degrees above average. That led to the warmest March on record in the Lansing area and led to an early start to spring as trees began to bloom. But just days after the record heat, frost and freeze conditions returned, and that triggered a disaster. killing many of the buds. Jeff Andreessen is the official state climatologist and works at Michigan State University. He says climate change could be creating events like these.
There are some areas in our region where we do see maybe an increasing tendency for that problem, for that early warm up followed by freezing temperatures. But there also are some places in Michigan where we don't see that.
Andreessen says what is clear, our climate is changing in Michigan. He says over the years, Michigan is becoming warmer and wetter, receiving 10 to 15% more precipitation each year and an average temperature that has climbed a few degrees. And in the wintertime, data from Climate Central shows that Lansing's average winter temperature has risen 4 degrees since 1970.
We are still see severe winters, but they're just less frequent and generally less severe than they were in the past. We're also seeing on the other side of the distribution, we are seeing some mild winters that we didn't experience 50 years ago.
Which can impact things like ski resorts, the ice fishing sport, and of course, the farm industry. At Uncle John's, Beck says the changing weather and climate is part of the lifestyle that farmers must adapt to.
You just take the good with the bad, but and hopefully they all even out in the end.
Andreessen tells me that there have been some leveling off with how fast Michigan is warming. Still, though, Lansing has seen 5 of the top 10 warmest winters on record since 2000.
And it's not just people that are affected by the switch to the winter season. Animals are also impacted by the arrival of the cold. And even more susceptible than critters in the wild that have adapted to snowy and chilly weather are our beloved household pets. Our pets' cold tolerance can vary based on a number of factors, including their coat, body fat, activity level, and overall health. But Lexi Rittenberg from Capital Area Humane Society tells me there are some things humans do to combat the winter elements that negatively impact our furry friends.
People typically use antifreeze, and that can be really toxic to animals, so making sure that they're not around anywhere that they can access those chemicals, which can be toxic or fatal if ingested, and making sure if there's any kind of salt on the ground that you're wiping their paws when they come inside so that they're not licking that off.
Rittenberg also adds that it's harder for animals to keep track of known scents if they are outdoors in the cold and snow, so it's a good idea to keep a close eye on them if they do go outside.
The next generation could watch for their school district on the bottom of the screen here on TV 10. Now websites, apps, social media, and even a Yeti deliver the information. A Yeti? We'll have more on that in a minute. Who makes the call to cancel school? In most districts, the superintendent decides if conditions warrant closing or delaying the start of school. The decision is a lot more involved than just looking out the window.
Well, I get up at 3:50 and I'm on the road by 4. Okay. And to that end, I am navigating our school district. I generally leave my home, which is relatively close to Holt High School, head west into Dimondale, circle into South Lansing because we actually serve kids from across our learning community, back in through Holt and tuck into Mason and what have you. During that period of time, I'm exchanging notes with area superintendents as well as our transportation.
So there's a network of you talking at 4 in the morning.
Absolutely.
Now about the Yeti, a character who travels the Holt School District to make the announcement on social media when school closes.
There was a previous superintendent who stayed in session one day when everyone else closed down, and so there was some pressure. And as I was emerging into this role, I needed to, I wanted to engage with the kids. There is an actual Holt Yeti that will run around the district and announce. And the Holt Yeti has sang some songs, Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, Under Pressure, and at the end of the day, it's a fun way to release our snow day announcements.
And no matter how creative announcements get, remember you can always get the latest school closings on News 10, WILX.com, and the First Alert weather app.
Before we look at what winter is going to bring us, snowier, warmer, wetter, we need to know what normals are. Remember, winter records are December, January, and February when it comes to temperatures, but for snowfall, it's from that first coating to the last coating. So it could be late fall into springtime that we measure all those numbers. So in most winters for us, you can see are running at about 46 to 50 inches. That would be normal. And we don't get it all at once, but it usually adds up by April to be those numbers. So what's our winter look like? Well, we look at a couple of different things, and most of it is tying in ocean temperatures. A catchphrase from decades ago was El Nino. El Nino takes place late in the year when you get the warming of the Pacific Ocean, and that's named El Nino the child, the Christ child. That happens almost every year to some degree. If it's really well pronounced, what ends up happening is the trade winds shut off, so you start to bring that warm weather back in. It means a pretty wet winter forecast for the southern part of the country and pretty warm for us. Now, the other thing is the La Nina, which we're about into, very light La Nina year, so that warmer temperatures get pushed to the west, and that allows colder ocean temperatures to well up. And that also allows for a more stormy pattern. You get a more pronounced winter pattern across our country. And for us, that could mean combining up low pressures and cold air from time to time, so it becomes a wetter and a colder winter. And that's what the Weather Service says, below normal temperatures for our region and above normal precipitation for us as well. I think our winter is going to have periods of very cold and snowy conditions and some breaks from time to time, but I think when it's all said and done, we're above normal with the snowfall.
Well, during the last half hour, we showed you how energy and road crews get ready for the winter season.
We shared tips of how to drive in the snow and how to get your car ready for winter.
And we talked about how climate change is impacting our winters and how to keep our furry friends protected.
And it's all part of our commitment to you at home and know that your First Alert weather team will be here tracking every storm heading our way. Thanks for watching and good night.
What an incredible special from the fine folks there in Lansing, Michigan. We thank them so much for giving us that winter survival guide. Popping up Alicia Myers, my co-host here, as we continue our journey across the country preparing for winter weather.
That was a really good special. They did such a great job covering every single aspect of what their viewers, but also viewers from across the nation really need to know about prepping for winter. All right, so now our next story is all about the winter blues. Sometimes we get those. Maybe the sun hasn't peeked out for a bit. Maybe we're tired of shoveling our sidewalks. So what do you do to beat those winter blues? Well, one of our stations takes a closer look at that on their North Dakota Today show. This is courtesy of our station KFYR.
Does all of that change our mood with the darker days and even the colder temperatures? Well, this is where we bring in Jenny Cornell from Summit Counseling Services. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
Good morning. So it's colder in the mornings. For me, and probably you hope too, it's tough to go outside. That changes my mood at least. Is that just us maybe? I don't know.
Yes. Well, when we walk outside from work and it's just pitch black, we're kind of like, aw.
It is, yeah.
Feeling that letdown of, oh no, now it's time to go to bed, because we kind of associate that darkness with quiet or stillness and bedtime. And we may not be ready for that right away after work at 5 or 6 in the evening.
Yeah, okay, so this is a good time for us to talk about what we can do to combat those feelings or prepare ourselves for the challenge that we're going to have, kind of finding the happiness in each of our days. So we want to talk about building resilience, and it sounds like mindfulness is a really strong tool to do that. Tell us how the two are connected.
Yeah, mindfulness helps us with being present in the moment. You know, we've talked about mindfulness quite a bit, and that's what the heart of mindfulness is it noticing what's around us, what's present in the moment. And when we do that, we allow ourselves to acknowledge what's happening in front of us and kind of get in touch with the reality that's in front of us. And doing that helps us build the ability to change that reality if we want to, or if we can. You know, some things we can't change, unfortunately, but some things we can. And part of mindfulness helps us to look at the things that we can change. And that helps instill that sense of, you know, that resiliency of knowing that not everything is permanent, not everything's forever, things do change, and we can influence that. And that helps us be more resilient and go with the flow and be able to, you know, water off a duck's back type feelings.
I kind of want to backtrack just a tad here, Jenny. So I spend a lot of time in the summer in the sun.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not getting any of that now. Is there something with maybe like the physical me? I don't know. I don't get as much vitamin D. Does that affect anything in any way?
Yeah. Scientists and studies have shown that the I can't talk today either, vitamin D provides us with some of those I can't pronounce all my scientific words today, but those happy emotions and things that give us the happiness, and having that lack of vitamin D, we get less of that. So that's not our sole source of getting those happy hormones that come in, but it does help. It does give us a little boost. So when we don't have as much vitamin D, we can feel a little more down, or there's a shift in the mood that we can sense.
Okay, so this is what you're talking about when you say we can't control everything. We can't control how much sunshine or vitamin D we're getting, but we can kind of shift our perspective to, rather than looking at the winter as a lack of that sunlight, we can look for some positives, right, Jenny?
Yes. If we're aware of the present moment, then we're going to see the gifts that are really in front of us, or the presence. I like to use that, you stay in the present to be able to see the presence around us. Just having a little bit of sunshine, walking out, and it may not be as bright, but there still is sunshine. Or, on those pretty winter mornings, the sun just kind of bounces off and reflects, and it sparkles off of that sun. And there's so many more beautiful images that we can see. And being present in the moment, we're able to see those and enjoy those and get that. But if we're not present, we can't receive those gifts.
So would it be safe to say that the mindfulness is also kind of like the perspective in all of that?
Yes. Mindfulness helps us to shift our perspective, because if we sit and we kind of focus on the things that we don't have or the things that we can't control, which is a not winning situation, because we can't control it. No matter what we try and do, as much as we sit here and we will it to change, we can't get it to change. We can't force the things that we can't control to change. So we're just generating more resistance, more hostility, more negativity towards ourselves in the situation. Whereas with mindfulness, we accept what's present in the moment. We can then change our perspective and look at the things that we can change, and then do something about those things that we can change, if that's what we decided to do in that moment for our best interest.
Well, hearing you talk about this, I think it's funny. I talk about this all the time. I grew up in California, where there's endless sunshine and always nice days, pretty much, but you don't take advantage of them. And I think living in the Midwest kind of trains you to look for those opportunities. If it's a nice day outside and you don't get outside and enjoy it, you're gonna feel like you're missing out later. So it's a really perfect opportunity to practice this type of thing.
Yeah, it's great to seize those moments. And if we're not aware, we're going to miss them. And, as the seasons start to change, our opportunity for these little things get a little shorter and shorter, but that doesn't mean it's not there at all. We just have to look and sometimes be creative to find what it is that we enjoy. Sometimes it's a nice fluffy sweater. I always say in the fall, I like my fall wardrobes better because I like these nice cuddly little sweaters and things and my boots and all that brings me comfort. So anything you can find that brings you comfort, that warmth, a hot cup of coffee, anything of that nature that brings in that sense of and change in your aware, and to notice that in your perspective.
All right, Jenny, I'm just going to throw you maybe a curveball question here. Okay, so we want warmer temperatures. At least I do. Yeah. I know Hope does, of course. Can my perspective say, I'm getting out of bed, I know it's cold outside, but maybe can I think those warm thoughts, and does that change how I'm going to go throughout the day in any way? I don't know. Does it?
Well, it certainly gives you more willing to accept things, so we're not resisting. So we're probably more willing to notice the things that we do feel warmth around, our warmth in our office, warmth in our building, warmth in our car. The heated car seats are a great invention, and I love that.
I had that thought.
Even those little things like that can be helpful. So practicing mindfulness gives us that willingness and kind of helps us with our brain neuroplasticity to be able to accept more things. Because when we don't accept things, we push things off, and then we feel the negativity. And we'll notice those cold weathers. It's going to bother us even more than it would have bothered us had we had a different perspective.
Right. And that dovetails perfectly. This is our last question for you here. But it kind of opens the door. We can have a gratitude list. We can start listing those things that we are thankful for as we shift that perspective and think those warm thoughts.
Yes, gratitude, we've talked about that before, but it really helps us acknowledge that life isn't always permanent. The one thing that we can always count on in life is change. And so gratitude helps us to kind of grasp onto and acknowledge the things that we do have in our life, because sometimes that can change. Sometimes we still have it in our life, or something new gets added, or something else gets taken away, but we're all grateful for what we do have in our life. And the more that we spend and acknowledge that, helps build up that resiliency, helps build up that broader perspective, and helps us really focus on the natural warm things that we have. Warm being like warm fuzzies and actual warmth.
Yeah, warm fuzzy socks and just beating the winter blues. Jenny, for those who have more questions, where can we find more information about you?
Definitely. They can give us a call at 701-751-0299, or you can stop by one of our offices in Bismarck, Dickinson, or Williston, or you can catch us on Facebook or on the web at summitcounselingservices.org.
Jenny Cornell, always a pleasure to talk with you, and thanks for prepping us for the season ahead.
Thank you so much.
All right, we appreciate our station so much in Bismarck, North Dakota. They provide us with top-notch content there. And I want to pop up my co-host, Alicia Myers, because I have a question for you, Alicia. You are a Nebraska native, so you've seen your fair share of winter. So what would you say is the go-to thing you need? And just to kind of give you some context, we are going to be going to KVLY, which is in Fargo, North Dakota. They'll be talking to Shields about kind of the best tools you need for winter. So what would you say is the number one thing you need for winter?
I definitely would start with the big coat, and like longer coat, heavy coat, just button that little baby up and just feel like you're in a blanket. That's my number one go-to.
Yes, and I would honestly say maybe a snowblower.
Oh, yes.
Because, so we recently got a snowblower. It was like someone was having an estate sale, so we got a great deal. But before that, we were doing the traditional shoveling, as many people do.
Yes.
Man, that can hurt your back if you do it for a while.
Right. It's also, for some people, it's not good for their health. If you're not in the best shape, you can have heart attacks or, you know, even just have moments where it's hard to catch your breath.
Absolutely. So we are about to hear from a representative from Shields. They spoke with, and Shields, I think it's a regional chain, so maybe I should explain that. Shields has like, they do a mix. Help me out here, Alicia, because this is regional to our area. They do sportswear, and it's like a sports store.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sporting goods store, but they've got a variety of things for outdoor, indoor sports, clothing, all kinds of stuff, and even Ferris wheels inside that you can go on a ride.
And statues, presidential statues sitting on benches sometimes, depending on the location. So they've got it all. But they're going to give us actually give our Fargo, North Dakota station some tips on what you need this winter.
Good morning again. We are back with Shields Home and Hardware. We're talking about what is on everyone's mind today. Moving that snow, specifically with some snow blowers. We checked back in with Joe and Ashley this morning as they are ready for that winter weather. Good morning, you two. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Winter weather is here. Maybe not quite as bad as the rest of the state yet, but it's definitely on the way. So we're going to talk about a little bit about shovels, snow blowers, ice melt, all the things you need to get prepared. And so I'm going to cover shovels first. I think every homeowner needs 3 shovels. Sounds excessive, but I'm going to tell you why. So the first one Joe has here is the Dakota Snowblade. It's on wheels. It's angled, so it pushes the snow in one direction, kind of like how the snow plows when they go down the street. It's super easy to use, even up to, the 2 inches of snow we get. The wheels make it so easy. My mom loves it. I go out there and whip down the driveway super quickly. You just flip it when you get to the end of the driveway and you go back to make your path the other way again. That angle makes it so that it pushes all the snow one way. The next shovel would be this pusher here. This comes in 4 different sizes. And nice thing about a pusher, this one again pushes snow. It just doesn't have wheels, so it's a little bit more manpower. Again, 4 different sizes, 24-inch all the way up to 48-inch. They use these on the hockey rinks to get the snow clear. It's just a really heavy-duty blade, a good shovel to have, nice and lightweight. And then the last one you need is the Buster. This one here is more of a scoop at the bottom. This is when you get to the end of the pile, you need to lift it up and throw it into your neighbor's yard, throw it out into the street, whatever you need to do to kind of finish up the job. You want one with more of a scoop on the end so you can lift it and you're not hurting your back as much. Other thing you need is some good ice melt. Right now, obviously this morning we woke up to some ice. We have pet friendly, we have liquid. If you poured new concrete or have a really delicate patio, the liquid ice melt is really good for that. And then we just have the good old 40-pound buckets of ice melt. Nice thing about the ones we have, it's blue, so you can see kind of where you're spreading it. You don't get too close to the grass. You don't want to burn the grass come summer, so that's a nice thing there. So, Joe, take it away with snowblowers. What do we got?
You know, our store here carries Ariens and Toro snowblowers. We are a certified Toro shop, so we have a bunch of single-stage and two-stage snowblowers. That single stage is going to be great for your sidewalks, small driveways, anything 8 inches of snow or less. And then when we get into those big drifts and when the snowplow leaves the nice present at the bottom of the driveway, that's where a two-stage snowblower really shines. It's designed to chop up the hard chunks of snow and throw them up to 40 feet. The other thing that we do here at Scheels is we maintain machines. So if your snowblower isn't starting up really well, bring it in, give us a call. Our service techs who are working in the back can help get that machine running like new. Another thing to think about as we get into our first snow is be safe out there. At the beginning of the year, this is when the snow is heavy. We haven't shoveled all that much. If it's your first time out, be sure-footed, take your time, walk slowly, and stretch. It sounds weird to stretch before you shovel, but it is one of the biggest things that can prevent injury when we get outside. So take your time, take it slow, stretch, make sure that you are taking care of yourself before you take care of the snow.
Yeah, the other thing, you know, like you covered, we have a snowblower for every shape and size. You know what I mean? If you are a single lady and you need something small and lightweight, or you're getting older and you want something electric, you don't have to deal with the gas, we have those options as well. If you need a big heavy-duty machine and you're going to do every neighbor down the street, that might be the one for you. And so stop on in, talk to one of our experts. That's why we're here, to help you determine how big is your driveway, how much snow are you moving, and what machine is right for you.
Yep. And don't be shied off by battery either. Battery power machines are becoming really, really popular. The batteries have become much, much stronger than they were in the past. They last longer. They hold up to the cold much better than the old batteries. So if you're somebody who has dealt with gas in the past and it's just not for you, come check out the battery options we have.
This is just the perfect thing for today. A lot of people hopefully running out to get their shovels that they need and those snow blowers. All right, well, you two, thank you so much. Scheels Home and Hardware, they got you covered if you want to be talking turkey or you want to be talking snow here, which we need to be today. Well, coming up on North Dakota Today, we're going to be live with John David as...
All right, excellent tips there. And hey, I guessed correctly that a snowblower is definitely something you absolutely need this winter.
And if you don't have a snowblower, they had such a variety of shovels. I liked that first one with the wheels that kind of popped over, and it looked really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. But as karma has it, as soon as you're 100% prepared for snow, that's going to be the season where the snow just doesn't really fall.
Well, maybe by buying a snowblower, you jinxed us, and you won't have to use it this year.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. All right, Alicia, what's up next?
All right, so now you have your home prepared, you even have your outdoors prepared, but what about your car? Of course, that's very important to make sure that you get your car ready for the winter. So our station WSFA spoke with an auto repair shop. They have advice on how to prep your car for winter.
Cold air has arrived, and when temperatures get low, it can sometimes affect your vehicle's performance.
And if it's bad enough, there could be safety issues. WSFA 12 News reporter Julia Avent talks with the experts on what you need to know.
Colder weather. Many of us don't like it, and our cars don't react to it well. Before hitting the road this winter, car care expert Preston Holman says to check your tires, coolant, and your vehicle's battery.
The cold cranking amps that it puts out is real low. They test bad and they end up failing a lot quicker in the winter.
Holman says vehicle batteries don't always react well to colder weather. He advises you to start up your vehicle a couple minutes before driving to get to a more efficient temperature.
Another thing, too, is tire pressure, too. A lot of tire pressure goes down when it gets really cold.
And whether it shows up on your dashboard or not, you may want to adjust your vehicle's tire pressure as needed. Another thing, adjust your coolant. And if you don't feel comfortable doing any of this, you can get your vehicle fully evaluated before the winter season.
I would just always make sure you take your car somewhere that's doing like us, that does a full safety inspection and stuff like that. So you know ahead of time, free time, instead of just somewhere where you go in, they drain the oil and refill it.
And if you do get stalled out on the side of the road, Holman says things do happen. Always have an extra blanket and waters to be prepared in any situation, and be prepared to put a potential spare tire. Julia Avant, WSFA 12 News.
And if you find, yourself on the side of the road trying to change that tire, remember safety first. If the road is busy and you could be hit by oncoming traffic, it's better to call a tow truck than to put yourself in danger.
Excellent tips there from our station, WSFA. All right, moving along, we only have a couple more stories left to share with you, unfortunately, but we have enjoyed our time here with you, haven't we, Alicia? Let me pop you up because this is not complete unless I pop up Alicia, my co-host here, who loves winter.
Yay, winter!
No, Alicia's a summer girl. It's okay. I love the sun as well. So, Alicia, we talked about all kinds of ways you can prepare for winter. Do you know how to prepare your furnace for winter?
I think I know, but it's always good to have a professional remind me, I think.
Yes, I honestly have no clue. So I'm going to be listening with all ears for this next story. So this next story comes out of Quincy, Illinois, and they're talking about preparing your furnace for winter. So let's go ahead and get you this story.
Fired up that furnace by now, and if yours is working, consider yourself lucky. Local service companies say they've been busy with repair calls.
So what can you do to avoid a problem? Well, WGEM's Victoria Bordenga is live in Quincy to tell us. Victoria.
As the winter months approach, service techs at Kex Heating and Air Specialists say that it's important to keep things like your air filters clean.
It has been extremely busy.
With the recent temperature change, heat and air service technicians like Ed Scranton have been busy.
The sudden temperature changes, especially coming off the first cold weekend, everybody all of a sudden realizes, hey, it's going to be cold, we need the furnace.
Scranton says this could be some people's first time turning their furnaces on this fall, and that could come with unexpected complications.
We went from 80 degrees to 30 degrees, so systems are starting to run really hard. Filters are dirty, they start overheating, they start acting up, and we get a service call.
As people are turning up their thermostats for winter, heat specialists are expecting to get more calls.
If you call in right now, we may not be able to get there for a few hours, usually within 24, but it has been busy.
Common issues Scranton is seeing on these calls are air filters not being changed and dirty flame sensors. He says calling for a furnace checkup once a year can not only save you money in the long haul, but could also save your life.
Everybody out there needs to make sure you got a good working carbon monoxide detector. Make sure it's within the date range and make sure it's functional. It's an easy safety device just like a smoke detector, especially with an older furnace.
And Scranton says that these repairs and checkups can cost anywhere from $750 to $1,600 depending on the severity of the repair. He also suggests that people get their furnaces checked now before we go deeper into the winter months. Live in Quincy, Victoria Bordenga, WGEM News.
And thank you, Victoria. Scranton says you can maintain.
All right, staying with that station, WGEM out of Quincy, we've got some more winter weather preparedness tips, including the difference between a blizzard, a winter storm, and a winter weather advisory. Learn more courtesy of this story.
Meteorologist Logan Williams. I wanted to take a quick deeper dive into winter weather preparedness week. That was the first week of November. Of course, we're getting a little bit closer to winter time. As a matter of fact, behind me, you can see the winter time coming up December 21st. So we are not far from the official start of winter. So the first thing we're going to talk about are those wintry weather, the snow falling, right? So there's a couple different alerts that we can issue, or the National Weather Service issues, when we have the potential for severe or wintry weather. So to take a look at those alerts, we issue winter weather advisories when potentially dangerous winter weather is expected within the next 12 to 36 hours or is occurring. That's when travel difficulties are expected. Usually with a winter weather advisory, you're going to see around 2 to 4 inches of snow in most cases. You might sometimes get a winter storm warning. A winter storm warning is when dangerous winter weather is expected within the next 12 to 36 hours and considerable travel problems are expected. Usually for a winter storm warning, you're expecting more of those gusty winds and snowfall totals above 6 inches. And then a blizzard warning is issued when severe winter weather is expected within the next 12 to 36 hours, and you are not supposed to travel. You're supposed to try to limit all travel, if at all possible, when a blizzard warning is issued. Of course, these are issued from the National Weather Service. They also issue watches, winter storm watches, when the potential for wintry weather is there just a couple of days out. And an ice storm warning is issued when they're expecting about 1/4 of an inch or more of ice or freezing rain. So there's a couple different winter weather safety tips that you can take throughout the course of the winter. Outside, of course, you want to dress for the conditions, limit your time outside, check on others, and watch out for those icy spots around your home. You can check your furnace, chimneys, carbon monoxide detector, and make sure you're insulating those exposed pipes to keep them from freezing and bursting when it gets very cold out. For your car, of course, you want to keep an eye on your battery and tire pressure. Make sure you have jumper cables, a blanket in the trunk, with some snacks as well to sustain yourself if you get stuck while out.
Some great tips there. Unfortunately, our connection cut off the rest of that story. So if you would like to watch that story, be sure to go to WGEM's website for more. All right, moving on to our very last story, we're going to talk about heating safety tips heading into winter. And as temperatures continue to drop across the country, you might think it's time to turn on the heat. But before you do, local firefighters have some tips to help keep you safe.
This weekend, you might think it's time to turn on the heat, but before you do, local firefighters have some tips to help keep you safe. Jeffrey Bullard is live in the studio with details.
Jeff, local firefighters tell me winter is a busy time for them, and officials with the American Red Cross say heating fires are the second leading cause of home fires. Nearly half of American families using alternative heating sources such as space heaters or fireplaces to stay warm. However, portable space heaters, including wood stoves and electric heaters, are involved in 74% of fire-related deaths. Brian Stroher is a Cape Girardeau firefighter and says it's time to be prepared.
Make sure your smoke detectors, if you didn't change the batteries with the time change, that they are working. Put a new battery in. With the furnaces, especially if you have gas, most of our calls are just that odd smell whenever people first kick them on. Check your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and have the chimney cleaned.
In Cape Girardeau, the fire department says they can help with installing smoke detectors. Stroher says if you have any fire concerns, to please call your local fire department. In the studio, Jeffrey Bullard, Heartland News.
Excellent tips there. I think we are ready for winter. Ready or not,
it's coming.
It's coming, or in a lot of places, it's here.
Yes,
so.
Several places have already seen quite a bit of snow for the year.
But I do want to share Alicia's #1 tip about winter. What was it? Go somewhere where it's
Go south. Go to the beach.
Go somewhere where the sun is shining.
That's how you prep for winter.
Good tips. I'm gonna follow your advice, Alicia.
Yes.
Well, you are prepped and loaded for winter. We hope you enjoyed this winter survival guide, because winter is here, at least for the next few months.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming along this special edition of Explore the Issue, your winter survival guide. I'm Victoria Shirley.
And I'm Alicia Myers.
Hope to see you next time for the next edition of Explore the Issue. We'll be right back.